Here's a quick rundown on getting started with SQL. So I'm looking at the starter example that you will be using for your project, and the first thing you'll see is I've added a lot of comments here to try to explain what you're looking at. So you can take a look at those, and I'm just going to do a quick rundown here of what's happening in this code. All right, because I know it's a lot all at once. So any part in gray here, the computer will ignore, and the parts that it is looking at is the rest here. So we have two kinds of commands that we'll be seeing in these files: SQL commands and then specific SQL-like commands. And so you can take a look at the PowerPoint. I've outlined those there, and I try to explain in here like I said. So let's go through, take a look at what we're looking at. Don't forget, if you want to, you can speed up the video or you can slow it down using the settings in the bottom right of YouTube. All right, so the first thing you'll see here, these are SQL commands, and we're going to talk about these more later. We need these in here just for some setup to create a structure for us to work with. Okay, so what we're looking at here is creating a table, all right, and that table will have 3 columns: CID for customer ID, and then first name and last name. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those are and how those work later. Okay, so we set up 2 tables. All right, they're empty though, so these next commands actually add values into the tables. All right, and so the command is broken up into 2 parts. The first part is saying where I'm going to put these values, and then here's a list of values. All right, so this first part here is saying I'm going to add this record to the customer table. I'm adding Bob Smith. I'm going to also add Jim Smith and Sally Smith. All right, and then these are the 3 values that would go into each column. All right, besides the customer table, I also have a product table with these 3 records. Remember, records are rows. All right, and so just so you can visualize that, I'm going to go ahead and run it. And so here I'm printing out the entire product table right here, so we can see those values. For PID, Peach has 1. P name, the product name is Peach, and the price is 5. So you can see how those values get placed into the table. All right, and then scrolling down a bit more, these are some SQL-like commands that just format the output over here to make it easier to read. So in each of your files, you'll want to have this somewhere in the file. Generally, you can just throw it at the top, so you can copy and paste that if you ever make your own file there. Make sure to include those. All right, now this is starting where the work that you'll be doing. Okay, and so in this first example, I'm running a query. This is SQL command here. These are some SQL-like commands, and what we're doing is we're learning a language that allows us to communicate, basically ask a question. A query is a question. We're going to ask a question to the database, and it will pull out the data that we need and display it however we want. Okay, and so it is SQL, structured query language, is a language, and it's very specific, just like any programming language or computer language. All right. So let's focus on this top part here. All right, and again, I explained a little bit about what these are in the PowerPoint and in here. These commands right here, the .print command will put whatever you have typed here directly onto the console. So here, where it says print with nothing, that puts a blank line up here at the top in the output. Print query here, that puts, there we go. That puts this line here. All right, and then I'm printing this text, select star. What I'm doing is I'm just printing out the query that I'm going to run, so when I look at the output, I can see here's the command I'm going to run. I'm just printing out the text of the command, and then I'm going to actually run the command here. All right, so this, when you're doing your assignments in SQL, this will make it easier for you to keep track of and easier for me to grade. I can see exactly the query that you're running, and then we'll look at the resulting table. So when you're doing this, come back to this file, and you can copy and paste and just change these things. All right, so let's take a look at the query, because this is the part that's important. Breaking this down. Okay, so this select star from product, basically it is SQL for give me all the values and all the columns from the product table. All right, so star means everything, and from product is the name of the table. So you can kind of think about it this way. With our select, we can list which columns we want to show up in our output. So if we put asterisk, that gives us all of the columns from the product table that we defined up at the top. So the product table has PID, PName, and price. So we can see that PID, PName, and price in the output. Okay. And then we tell it which table to pull that information from. And so this part right here, from 59 to 66, produces the output over here that I have highlighted. All right, so that would be if I ask the question, print everything from the product table, you would write this query, select star from product. That would produce this output on the right. And then you would want to include this label at the top to print out the query that you're running. Okay, so there's two parts to each question for when you're writing the code for the assignment. All right, and then let's take a look at the second one here. So I'll scroll down. So this code right here from 71 to 78, that's producing the output down here. Okay, so we're printing out the query just so we can see it in the output and tie it together with what the result is going to be. Now notice this one's a little bit different. For my select clause here, I'm listing which columns I want to see. So before, when we put select asterisk, that shows all three. And if we had more, it would show all the rest. Down here, we're only listing P, name, and price. So we're limiting our output to only show those two columns. And then we still list the table. Okay, so this part here, 77 and 78, this is asking the database, show me all of the records from the product table, but only show me these two columns, P, name, and price. Okay, and so you can list those with commas just to show the ones you want to see. All right, so as you're working on the assignment, keep that in mind, how to build that. You can refer back to the PowerPoint. And as always, if you have questions, make sure you come to one of my labs to ask me, or you can shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help.